Okay, so then the shape. So, oh yeah, for quadriceps, I do expect you to know rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medius, yeah, and yeah. So this is I do expect, and vastus intermedius. So I do expect you to know all of those, at least the four parts of that. And then shape. So shape, we did cover one of these already. Remember those circular muscles? And what were these? Like you have two circular muscles, at least, yeah, up here on your head, right? So you have your orbicularis oculi, or actually one, two, three, and your orbicularis oris, right? So again, the orbit is a circular path. So your orbicularis oris, this is combining an orbit, a circular shape, with oral, your mouth, right? So this is the mouth that the muscles that help to contract your mouth or contract your mouth and pucker it. Now then, here's the trapezius muscle, and actually this is funny, or you might have heard it in the gym, just traps. So you see like people doing shrugs to build up their traps, but the trapezius muscle is actually pretty broad right here. So trapezius sounds like trapezoid, right? So I'm wondering if this is what they thought about when they talked about trapezius. But things like, if you remember all the way from high school, ninth grade geometry, a trapezoid, like something's parallel and you have two other sides, right? But I'm like, it kind of looks more like a kite than actual trapezoid. I mean, this stuff isn't really exactly parallel. It does have four sides, but yeah, trapezius muscle isn't like a strict trapezoid. It is kind of a roughly four-sided muscle, and it's very broad. It's not just up here, like in the shoulder area. It actually extends down the back. Or maybe if you're like really stacked like this, maybe from the front, your traps might look like a trapezoid, but again, your actual trapezius is like this. So again, it looks more like a kite from the back than an actual trapezoid, but it does get its name from a trapezoid. And here's a deltoid. So again, deltoid, if you've seen the Greek letter, if you're in a sorority or fraternity, or if you know Greek, what shape is the letter delta? It's a triangle shape, right? So then a deltoid just refers that it's shaped like a delta, it's shaped like a triangular shape. For people who have really developed deltoids, it looks more like a chestnut or like a teardrop, because if it's really bulging out, it's not going to really look triangular. But yeah, this is the deltoid, one of the muscles we did point out earlier. And I actually think Martini does not have a picture of the deltoid from the side, which is, I think, where you can actually see the morphology. That's why I include this picture right here. And then you have others. So here we have our trapezius, right? So here I have our traps. Here is a superficial dissection showing the muscles. Now, this is where you also need to know those directions. Superficial, again, against the surface. If someone's superficial, they're only concerned with superficial at surface looks. But if you have a deep relationship, this is below the surface. It's more than skin deep. So let's look at a deep dissection and remove this superficial trapezius muscle. Now we can see some of the scapula. We actually removed some of like the subscapular or subscapularis and or not subscapularis. Ooh, bad. So you have infraspinatus and supraspinatus. Supraspinatus and infraspinatus. We removed those as well, but focus on this. So what we have here is the rhomboid major and the rhomboid minor. So a rhombus, again, this is all the way back to ninth grade geometry. It's four sides, and all the sides should be equal in length. It's not quite, again, it's like another approximation. The deltoid isn't a strict triangle. The trapezius is not a strict trapezoid. Same with the rhomboid. It is a four-sided figure. It is a little more parallel than that's kind of one of the similarities. Like it does kind of have parallel sides, opposite sides, sort of. But yeah, that's where it comes from, a four-sided figure. So what am I getting at here? So again, orbicularis oculi, that's the circular muscle. And then just like the oris, orbicularis oris, that's also another circular muscle. Trapezius, again, not a strict trapezoid, but it is a four-side, like a muscle that looks like it has four borders. And then deltoid, it is a roughly triangle-shaped muscle. Rhomboid, roughly it does have four sides, roughly parallel to each other. It is, you have a major and a rhomboid minor. So again, some of these muscles may be named after their shape. So when you're visually identifying them, if you know that rhomboid major, it means four-sided shape, you'll be looking for that four-sided shaped muscle. Deltoid's pretty obvious. Trapezius, again, that one is slightly misleading, but that's where they get the name from. Now, direction 1 and direction 2. Why did I put 2 columns? Like, sometimes muscles have like a direction in their name before other terms. Sometimes they have it at the very end. So rather than like just moving a muscle that has it here all the way back here and shuffling the terms around, I just added 2 fields. So sometimes you have a direction in the middle of the muscle name. Sometimes you have some sort of direction at the end of a muscle name. So here's an example. So now let's look at the abdominal muscles. So everyone knows about the 6-pack, but again, you have more than just your rectus abdominis, which is, you see, well, actually this guy has an 8-pack here. But the thing is that you have more layers to your abdominal muscles. And then here we have our external obliques. And this is the muscular part, and actually has this, like, notice that the tendinous part, the part that has all the dense dense regular connective tissue, it actually forms a little envelope around here. So this is what we call a flat sheet of, it's like when a tendon, it's no longer a tendon, now forming a big, broad, flat sheet. That's what we call an aponeurosis. And here is what we have is called the rectus sheath. And so the things that you can't actually see the rectus abdominis from the surface. It's actually enveloped within this rectus sheath. That is where the external oblique is. So it's kind of contained within the aponeurosis of the external obliques. Now what we have here is a deep dissection. So now you're going to cut this external oblique and pull it back. So that's what it means by cut and reflected. It means you cut it, and then reflected means you're pulling it back. And then we have the internal obliques. So external obliques, if you're looking at the body, it's kind of like this, but the internal oblique is kind of going the other way direction. So it's kind of doing a crisscross. So it's actually so pull apart the external obliques and you have the internal obliques. But notice that you have to cut again to actually look at the deeper muscles. And what we have here, so this is the classic, whenever you think of the abs, you think of this is what muscle you're probably thinking of. Like if someone's working on their abs and trying to get really developed abs, this is what they're trying to build up, the rectus abdominis. And here we have the transversus abdominis. So notice that like rectus abdominis and transversus abdominis, they both have abdomen, but external obliques, they don't have abdomen in them. But why did I highlight those words? Well, look how they're arranged to each other. Look how the fascicles are arranged. Now notice in the obliques, compared to the axis of the body, notice that they're kind of askew, they're kind of at an angle. So whenever a muscle has oblique in its name, usually compared to the axes of the body, they're actually at a slant or an angle or some sort of diagonal arrangement. So when you see that term oblique, look for a muscle that has a diagonal arrangement. And then transversus abdominis, hey, which plane goes horizontal? That's the transverse plane, right? So transversus abdominis, look at the fascicle arrangement. Notice that they're going transverse, they're going horizontal. So it's like the abdominal muscles that are going horizontal in arrangement. Now rectus abdominis, whenever you have something that refers to rectus, I think OpenStax actually had a pretty good mnemonic. Like when you rectify something, you straighten it out. So rectus refers to something that's straight along a path and kind of parallel to something. So notice that all these these fascicles of the rectus abdominis, they're kind of running parallel to the axis of the body. So again, just by knowing these directions, you can kind of tell which one is oblique, which one is transverse, which one is rectus. So that's one example of how knowing these directions can help you visually identify them. So again, rectus abdominis, that's the one going along the axis, parallel, straight up and down. Obliques, these are the ones going at the angles, right? So again, oblique refers to something angular. And then you have rectus meaning straight and transverse meaning horizontal. So again, this is an easy way to tell apart those abdominal muscles just by doing it at those different dissections.